Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Latched Mama podcast. It is a Monday before a very important Christmas holiday weekend. But we are here today podcasting. This is going to drop, I'm sure, after the holidays. But we wanted to talk about something that maybe doesn't get talked about very much in the wintertime months. And it is getting outside with your kiddos. And I know that may sound really lame, but we're going to talk about the importance of it. So stay tuned. You're listening to Latched Mama Podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Wirt, busy mom of 6 and owner of LatchedMama.com. Join us each week as we talk about pregnancy, breastfeeding, postpartum, and all things motherhood. We have 2 new people to the podcast here today. They are both wonderful Latched Mama family members / employees / team members / I don't know what we call everybody. But we have Jordi and Christy here today. And we're going to talk about going outside. Jordi and Christy met through an organization called Latched Baby, right?
Yes.
Which encourages families to get outside with their kids. And we're going to talk about all the benefits of that today. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hello.
Do you all want to introduce yourselves? Tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Sure. So my name is Jordi. I have 3 kids between ages 4 through 8. And adventuring is my passion.
What do you do at Latched Mama, Jordi?
I am a marketing person. Do I have an official title?
I don't know. Nobody steal her. Just don't steal her. She's one of those that works all hours of the day, answers Slacks all the time, try and teach her boundaries, but she can't really have any. She actually gave me my husband back. She's a very, very special person to me. I actually see my husband now. At the very, very beginning days of Latched Mama, Eric did what Jordi does now, which is like basically manages our ad account and stuff. And it was, I literally get like PTSD just thinking about how many hours we all worked. So Jordi was our godsend, and we love her, and she's here with us now podcasting, leaving her comfort zone, being vulnerable.
I am losing it. I'm about to cry with nerves.
Oh, it's so good for you though. It's so good. You just got to embrace it. I know it's hard though. I know, but thank you for being here, and thank you for leaving your comfort zone for us. Yay. Hi, Christy.
Hi.
You want to tell us a little bit about yourself? And you can't leave your kids' names out, 'cause that's awesome.
Well, my name is Christy, and I'm a mother of 2. My oldest is 9. His name is Camper.
I love it.
And my daughter is 6, and her name is Daisy.
Love it. And I'm going to take it that you all like the outdoors as a family.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how you all met and Latched Baby. I'm just going to lead you all today. We're going to have a friendship conversation. See, it's easy, Jordi.
We were active members in a national organization called Latched Baby, and I believe I was in it first. I was in it for a while before I met you, and but we met on a hike, and that's what this group did, is just brought people together, saying like, "Hey, I feel like hiking today.
Okay,
meet me here at this time," and that's what happened. And I don't remember what our first hike was together, but
I do. I do, because it was my first Latched Baby hike.
Story.
So the thing about Latched Baby is it brings it's what was supposed to be up to age 6, but it's expanded now. But the idea is like newly postpartum moms with toddlers, that kind of thing, brings them outside with other moms, and like the community was like, I never had that community until I found this group.
I didn't either. Yeah.
And then you found Latched Mama. You got some community here too.
Exactly.
Not to plug.
No, I know.
Shameless plug, Latched Mama. But no, I love the idea of, and we were talking a little bit about this beforehand, about the fact that like when you pull people together, and you pull kids especially, and you take them outside of their homes, and you get outside of normal play dates, and you get away from technology, and you get into nature, what amazing, amazing things can happen.
Right. And like Christy and I were just talking about how so much of it was learning from other parents, like just from watching, like what's okay and what's not. So on that first hike, Christy and I have 2 girls that are almost exactly the same age. They're like a week apart.
10 days.
Yeah.
Daisy
and they were
Juno.
Yeah.
Cutest names ever.
Yes.
And they were 10 months old when I first started Latched Baby. So like I went on this hike, went down like this trail in the forest.
Did you carry? Was Juno on your back?
Yep.
Okay.
Actually, I think I was nannying too. I think I might have had another kid, so I was
Okay.
like tandem carrying or something at the time, probably.
Wow.
And then I had my older kid like chasing along.
Yeah.
And I just like social stuff is hard.
Yeah.
And it's especially hard, I think, as a new mom.
Absolutely.
And getting like back out there. And what was nice about this, as opposed to like play dates or like meeting somebody at a bookstore,
Yeah.
is that it was more structured. I can show up and there's nothing else expected of me. I can just be there.
You just
and
have to put
watch and
one
learn.
foot in front of the other.
Right. And so we got down to the bottom to the creek bed, and like there's like babies like just sitting there in the creek. Like so
Love
I
it.
set my little 10-month-old in the creek and like
Yeah.
had her like taste sand, which I
Yeah.
know people's like, you know,
Which,
but like
I mean, let's be honest. Like, my husband always hates it. I'm going to use an example when we start putting shoes on our kids too early because their little toes are little like monkey toes. Like, most kids, if you don't break them of it, are so happy and comfortable in nature. It's almost like, I mean, there are no rules, but it's almost like they're just at home. Like
Absolutely.
Jungle Book. Like, seriously.
and that works for me too. Like as opposed to having my kids in like a Target aisle,
Yeah.
I didn't have to say no all the time.
Yep.
I could just let them do their thing. Like, and the no's were based on very specific dangers, which makes it easier, like
Yeah.
to set those boundaries and those lines.
I'm sure there are people hearing this right now that are like, heck to the no. The Target aisles, at least there's a front door that they can't run out of. And there's like other people around that can grab them. Like, I'm not bringing my kid out into nature. Like, talk about that. Like, did you ever have that fear that Juno was just going to run and you wanted to put like a GPS tracker on her or anything?
That was kind of the beauty of being out on a trail, is that they could run.
Yeah.
They
love it.
could. They're not going to run away.
Yeah.
I have, of all the hikes I've done with all the different families that I've done hikes with, been on hikes with, it's like kids will run. My little girl takes off,
Yeah.
but she's always in view. Like they don't disappear. They don't run away.
Like a really good golden retriever.
And I mean, I will say that there's times when like
guys
you're on a
don't
new
like my
trail.
You're not. I mean,
At least Kennedy's laughing at my jokes. But it's like you could bring like the worst trained golden retriever with you into the woods, and most likely they're not going to go out of view, is what I'm saying. Like, there's that connection.
I mean, there's some trails where like, especially if you're on a new trail, like you don't know what's ahead of you. There might be a huge drop off.
Yep.
A lot of time we played around water, which is a danger. But that's a great way to like, I felt like it was a really good opportunity to teach them those boundaries. Like one thing we did was we played red light, green light a lot.
yes.
Or like this idea that like you can, as opposed to in a playground where like they are naturally closed in, they have to pay attention to where they are and where other people are.
Absolutely.
And like the rule is all you have to stay within my sight.
Yeah.
I will also say that we're basing this off of Richmond's and like
Yeah. Like, we're
Shenandoah,
not-
like Virginia mostly. Can't speak for those that live in
Colorado. or
mountainous
something like
areas.
that. Yeah,
that-
absolutely.
That really do have
Well,
dangerous sharp cliffs to fall off of. But for us, this is our experience.
Yeah.
And or my experience.
I mean,
even.
nature, I mean, it's not a large jump to say like nature heals. I mean, nature is one of the coolest things. I mean, look at Kennedy. I mean, Kennedy stays in the woods all the time. I mean, it's literally just this thing. I'm sure there's some profound people that have written about it. And just what it can do to the body, to the mind, you know, just, I mean, you combine, I mean, my guess would be, and I'm going to way go out there because I own a business and just have a bunch of kids, but my guess is that it wasn't only the fact that you only had to put one foot in front of the other, but I'm sure the actual movement of your body helped ease the anxiety to help the conversation as well.
100%. Like a bunch of moms out in the woods where it feels like there's nobody else there and it's just us and our kids, like being able to talk about stuff and let it out there. When your kid does something really embarrassing, somebody else has been like, yeah, they've done that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting too, because I have, you know, every kid is born with a different personality, and, you know, Nathan, my oldest, you know, can struggle emotionally a little bit. He has some dyslexia going on. But he goes to forest school one day a week, and he has found his love. I mean, his love is nature. It's shelter building. It's being outside. It's learning about birds and animals, and he feels like he's really good at it. So it's so fun when you actually open up. It doesn't have to be soccer or football or, theater or anything. Like, it can be something that's right out your back door.
Absolutely.
And I love that for him, because I love that it's going to be everywhere he looks for the rest of his life is like his happy place.
Yes.
100%. But I do feel like this is a good place to segue into like managing expectations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's what I want for my kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want them to be these nature, wild, perfect things. And my eldest is not. He much prefers to be inside. I had to take him out of a school that was mostly outside because that just wasn't like working. And that's okay too.
So not all, yeah. So, I mean, I think it's also like meeting kids where they are. Yeah. Like, you can encourage them, but it's like, when my husband was growing up, he had to do a season of every sport. He is not very athletic, but he had to do a season because he had to be introduced to it. So I think introducing kids to nature, I think, is a really, really important thing.
Yes.
Especially with so much, screen time and video games that naturally they get pulled towards, because it is easier than loading up kids in some ways and going on a walk.
Loading up the kids to go outside is sometimes the most difficult part of all of it.
Yeah.
And you just need to get past that. You don't have to plan for a whole day out. Just throw some snacks in the bag, throw water in the bag, bottle, whatever.
Yeah.
If you're nursing, that's
easier.
That's easier. Well,
Yeah.
I would say that, but it was difficult for me to nurse in public. But yeah, it's like just get what you have to have.
Yeah.
Get out of the house.
For the first time,
like
Nathan's Nathan's school program is going year round. So, and I got like, oh my gosh, how is he going to be warm enough? Because it's 8 hours outside, like only shelter is what they build. But he is so excited about the day it snows. He's so excited. He's like, I'll just layer, Mom. Like, it's no big deal. I'll just put some layers on and I'll be fine. Whereas to me, it's like, I wouldn't want to spend 8 hours in snow and wet and rain any day. But it's really interesting when you can. I think we sometimes forget that this is also something you can introduce kids to. Like, you can introduce them to nature, and I think sometimes we forget about that a little bit.
Well, and like the risk reward like calculations that we make about that sometimes I think are off because we're not so used to it. Like we were talking about getting outside. Like, you can go outside in all weathers.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like, just because it's rainy doesn't mean you can't go for a hike.
Yeah.
Rain, snow, if it's sleeting, as long as it's not like dangerous weather, kids can be out in it. And sometimes they feel like they're getting away with something they shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
And it just makes it more fun for them. Like, I'm out in the rain, I'm splashing puddles, I'm making a big mud mess. They love that.
So we were talking a little bit before we started. I think one of my favorite mom hacks is, if you're having a really, really rough day, it's put the kids in a bathtub or take them outside. Like, those are like the two ways that sometimes you can reset your day and find, the happiness. But at the same time, I feel like we're all met with this expectation that, hey, if we go hiking with our kids, we have to come back with this beautiful picture and we have to have all the right gear and like, they need their little Patagonia bunting, and all of this stuff. So talk to me a little bit about like what we can make do with. Like, I know there's a hack that we do, plastic bags over the shoes when when all of a sudden it's wet, different things like that you can make do with whatever you have in terms of just getting outside.
I mean, I'm notorious for going out without anything I need or like it's time for a camping trip. Great. Let me just put the kids in the car and stop by Walmart on the way out.
Jordi would we would be in the office. This is pre-pandemic when Jordi came in every day, and it would be like 4:00. I'd be like, hey Jordi, can we launch this ad tonight? Whatever. And she's like, no. I think I'm gonna go hiking. And I'm like, Jordi, like, it's 4:30. Like, all that was on my radar at that point is how I survived to bedtime. But Jordi's gonna load up her kids and they're gonna go see the sunset somewhere on the top of some mountain.
That is 100% Jordi right
and
there.
I'm like, Jordi, like, what about clothes? What about dinner? Oh, I don't know. We'll figure it out. And it was just this beautiful thing because it was what she needed. And I feel like that's like, it was probably a long day. I probably missed some stuff as her boss. and she was probably like frustrated or whatever, like not in a bad way, but just like that was her therapy. Like she needed to go hike.
I don't think I've ever told you no about.
I know, exactly. So I think I probably pushed her boundaries, and she probably was like, hey, guess what? I'm going to go to the top of a mountain tonight, and you're not going to be able to get in touch with me. So no, I can't launch that ad, Melissa, because I will have no internet service and I'll have no cell phone service. No, but seriously, I think that it becomes, just part of your life when it works well.
Well, and like I struggled hard with postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety. Mm-hmm. And like this was my way out. And a lot of it, like being able to go outside, just being able to leave all of the expectations, the chores, the mess, the screaming, the like, do I put them on screens? Too much screens, like all of that. To leave that at home and just go.
Because you can't really get it wrong. You just have to keep them alive.
Right, exactly.
Right?
It really simplifies things.
And they find their own enjoyment. They find their own beautiful things. I mean, just the treasures that I know that, my kids find when they're outside. I remember growing up, my dad was one of 7. And so, we would all get together with all of the cousins and all of the different aunts and the uncles. And they would tell stories about what life was like growing up. And that time I thought 7 kids was the most insane thing in the entire world. And here I am with 6. But they used to say that their mom, so my grandmother, no matter what the weather was, once a day would go outside and just walk laps around the outside of the house. Leave them all inside, but just walk outside the house, because it was her ticket to sanity. It was her ticket to, being able to take a deep breath. So I think that's really cool that you found it. So did you know that it was going to help you prior to finding Hike It Baby?
I don't know. I don't remember exactly how I found Hike It Baby, other than like I knew I needed some kind of community. I needed to get outside.
So were you getting outside by yourself beforehand, and then?
Yes. So from the time my first was born, part of my postpartum anxiety thing is that I would just pace around the neighborhood. Like I could like stop.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's different. Like it was more healthy when I had some kind of structure of we're going for a hike, as opposed to we're just like going outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are other people there too, which is good to talk to.
But Christy has always been an outdoorsy person.
Yes. We always camped and hiked. My mom always took us to, say, like pony pasture.
Okay.
And she would have her nature books with us. So every time we found a flower or something or an insect,
that's really cool.
We'd sit down and open the book. And I did that a little bit with my kids, but the phone was a little easier and less heavy to carry with everything else. But I tried to do that as well with my kids. So like my son, we went camping with him when he was 2 months old. So that
was her first child.
Wow.
First one. Yeah.
Camper.
I don't think we've gone camping at all.
But that was just,
In a tent?
that's what we knew.
In a tent?
Yes.
The baby kind of like slept next to you?
Yeah. With, between me and my husband, and, we took a changing pad, the kind that has like the raised sides.
I'm just trying
Put
to,
a
I have a
cover on
2-month-old right now. I'm just trying to think about
the changing pad with the cover on it, and just a blanket over. It's like it was sides were raised up enough that he wasn't going to roll away. Not that he could really roll at 2 months, but
wow.
Stayed place. He slept all, man. This kid sleeps so well outside.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
And they both, I think we all do.
Yeah.
But with when my daughter was born, my husband had recently taken a job that took him away from us. Like he'd be gone for 4 to 6 weeks at a time. He'd work in other states. So with her, I developed like postpartum depression with her, and I didn't know it. I didn't know what that was because I didn't have it with my first one. And I just remember I was sitting in a seat nursing her and just crying all day long. And my son, who was 3 at the time, was just bored out of his head. Like, we were newly back into Richmond after being gone for 10 years. I didn't have the friends and family or the connections that I needed. I mean, I had my sister with me, but she had a newborn as well. My nephew is like 2 months older than my daughter. So
she was in the trenches as well.
Right. And And when Daisy was about 6 weeks old, I found a group. I found this hiking group, and I needed that for me. Like, just for some reason, it gave me a reason to get off of the chair and to get outside, because I'd gotten stuck in this rut. And it was so nice just to be able to walk around with other adults, because that's the other thing. I'm home by myself with the baby and a toddler, and it was difficult because I didn't know how to nurse in public. I didn't know how to nurse while walking. All I knew was how to nurse her when I was sitting in a chair.
Yeah.
So I kind of learned how to do that by watching these other mamas.
Wow. Were you baby wearing at all at that point, or did you have to learn how to do
Yes, but I didn't baby wear with my first one. So this was, I didn't nurse my first one either. Wow. So this was all new. This was all brand new to me.
Of course you were like sat in a chair crying, like trying to learn it all by yourself.
Yes. And it was, so I learned to get out of some comfort zones. And also I was like painfully shy too. Like, it wasn't like me just to get up and go be in this group of people. I didn't know anybody.
Yeah, but you moved your body.
I did. That was almost desperation, I guess. And then, but my son was also the oldest. So like everybody had newborn babies. So eventually older kids started coming in, and then that was his only form of socialization.
Yeah.
Why am I saying that?
Yeah, no, you're fine. I say words all the time on this thing.
So it's like all of a sudden he started getting friends that were his age.
It just builds community.
It was
community in a super, super unique way.
And that ended up being my community.
Yeah.
And I'm still like such great friends with people that I met. Not right away. Like, I look back at pictures of the first couple of hikes and I don't know who they are.
Yeah.
But as the group started getting bigger, it was also a brand new group to the city. I think they were like a month or two. And so it was socialization for me and for my son. And I was learning how to baby wear and nurse, and just by watching. And then you start asking questions about how to do things. And then you start asking for help.
Yeah, I love it.
And it was so amazing to find these other women that like, here, like, your carrier's a little off, let me help. Or
and it doesn't sound like it was judgmental. It was,
not at all.
Yeah,
not
meeting
at all.
each other where you were.
Like, I remember, so I went through my third pregnancy, like deep in this group, being outside the whole time. I was stay at home. That's all I had. This thing.
Yes.
And so I had my third baby, and he was like a newborn, and I had him outside, like doing this right away, went through pregnancy. But I remember one time, like, it was cold and like wet on the ground. I think it might've been snowy or something. I had him, in October, and there were 3 people who stood and like held him on their arms so that I could change his diaper.
That's awesome.
Like that kind of.
And it's interesting, you were talking about the women that you still remember that you're close with and you're friends with. So many people, when they come here, come into my life, always have these stories about things that they did in the postpartum period, or, when they were trying to get their feet under them. And they remember those connections, and they remember those connections so strongly. I remember like Elizabeth, who used to work here, took a baby dance class, I think, which is just silly to me, but she still has these friendships like that are super, super close, because you meet in a sense of vulnerability. You meet in this place where, you're trying to figure out your way, and there's no other way to be but vulnerable. I think it's such a great lesson that like, if you can find that community, you just have to find it. Like, and it may not be going outside. You may be like, like Jordi's oldest, who doesn't want to be outside. It could be, in a Lego group or something like that. Who knows? But, I think it's just so important to just try and get out there and to find the community.
Yeah. And I mean, I think Christy and I were talking about what the definition of adventure is to us. And I think we kind of landed on it's like pushing outside your boundaries a little bit, like making that step. And I feel like that's something that is hard to do when you're there, but so important and so valuable, and you can do it.
You do little baby steps. Like
Yeah.
you don't have to go join a hiking group
Right.
if you don't know how to baby wear. Go find somebody in your neighborhood that's walking around wearing a baby and talk to them and
Yeah.
and try and get those first steps, moving forward. But I think that there's something really crucial. I mean, we talk about community a lot on this podcast, but I think there's something really important to think about when you talk about actually moving your body while you try and make that community. So like if you're struggling for connection and you're struggling to have those first conversations, like you said, it may not be coffee. Like the idea of sitting with a stranger at a coffee shop right now does not sound great for me at 7 weeks postpartum.
It didn't sound great for me then either.
Yeah,
Like that wasn't me. That wasn't
Yeah.
what I wanted to do.
Yeah. I remember I had my first ever, after my son was born, I had my first ever play date. Okay. And it was a girl from high school. Bless her heart. Love her dearly. Then we ended up working together and selling homes together. And so it was very different than I am today. It was 10 years ago. Very into how my house looked and, how my kid was dressed and how he behaved. And within probably 10 minutes, my kid gave her kid a bloody nose or a busted lip or something. And like she was, dressed to the nines and, her kid, I think, was in a monogrammed sweater or something. And now suddenly his lip was bleeding from my kid throwing a toy across the room. That was my last play date I ever had. But I was thinking about like what that would have felt like if we had been outside. Like, I mean, my son maybe still would have thrown something, but I feel like there's something about being outside of a room, outside of a structured environment that invites vulnerability and invites conversation. It invites, comfort, maybe. Maybe that's what I'm looking for. I don't know.
It could be very different. I know that when we're outside, the kids are allowed to do things that they can't do inside the house, like climb all over everything, just run
Be
crazy
kids.
and scream. And yeah, so when they're outside, they can climb, they can fall, they can,
Yeah.
they can run and be loud and play and giggle and laugh, everything, even. And also,
It takes the stress off of you then too. So you can just work on
it takes
building
a stress.
relationships.
It takes the stress off of me.
Uh-huh.
It takes the stress off the kids. But also, it could be a bad time too. But it's still important to have those bad times
Yeah.
and be outside still, because you're still getting the fresh air. You're still getting we call it forest bathing.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, there's studies to support this. Like there's like bougie places will like have forest therapists that take you out and like you. But that's not what it.
But it's also conversation. Okay.
What is a forest therapist?
So they're like in certain cities where people aren't getting enough forest time and like getting enough outside time, there you can hire somebody to take you out and do mindfulness things in the forest. And the idea is that this green light does certain things inside of you that being in this outside
is there
place.
green light outside right now and like.
Well, it's coming through the trees, the leaves.
But if there's no leaves, is there still green light? Or is the green light
I don't
less
know.
right
That's
now?
a good question.
Okay. Because in my forest, in my backyard, it's very gray light, and it's not very inspiring at the moment. Okay, so
But
green light. Okay.
But there's been studies that said that this is like actually beneficial,
Yeah.
like physiologically.
So it's not just sunlight; it's also green light.
Green light and the
That's
air
fascinating.
and then grounding and all the things.
Yeah.
Like you could get really wooey about it.
Yeah.
And sometimes
I mean, that's
do,
kind of where
but-
I started
Yeah.
with the idea that, like, I don't think anybody's ever argued that there is a sense of peace
Yeah.
in nature. I mean, nature is definitely a healing place for most people. Okay, so people who don't have Hike It Baby, where would you tell them to start?
Well, first off, there are a lot of local hiking groups that are
Okay.
good for kids. And I mean, it doesn't have to be specific to a hiking group, but there is that community. Like that's a something.
Even if it's playground meet group. or
Exactly.
it's-
Most
Yeah.
outdoor people I have found, I'm going to stereotype right now, are a little bit more laid back-ish. I add ish because there's also like the environmental aspect of it that sometimes can be, I don't know, overwhelming to me.
Yeah.
But like I like walking up to a random hiking group that is not child based? Can you bring your baby? Yes or no? You have to ask if you can bring your baby.
I think it depends.
I think if it's an organized group already,
Okay.
see what
What
it
they
is.
say. Okay.
Yeah, because they may want to have that childless experience, like
Yeah, you're right.
and
You're absolutely right.
or
Yay,
or it
kids.
it may be something they never thought of doing.
Yeah.
Is inviting kids along. I don't know. So it may depend on that organization.
And there's something about like getting back to the whole like it might not work out. There's something about the fact that with other parents, sometimes you only go half a mile or like past the parking lot,
Yep.
and that's okay.
It was like my Christmas tree light experience this weekend. We made it. We made it about 5 miles down the road, picked up pizza, and then went back home. Yeah. So like you have to be ready to bail sometimes with kids.
Right.
Don't
Yeah.
expect. Yeah, if you have it in your head that you're going to do a 4-mile hike, it's okay to have that goal, but the kids could change their minds very easily, and they may just want to sit and look at rocks and
Yep.
sticks in the same spot forever. And
That's what's gonna happen. Probably. Maybe.
so it can sometimes be frustrating. I'm not painting a picture that being outside and having these amazing adventures are always
just like everything else
great.
in
Everything else.
parenting. Yep.
But I think those are important life lessons too. Like sometimes, yeah, you might want to get that quick 4 miles in, but sometimes you have to change it so it's only half
So
a
the
mile
lesson.
maybe.
So the lesson is get outside.
Get outside.
That should be goal number one. Like, no
Absolutely.
matter what it looks
Yeah.
like, no matter where you're going, get outside. It
Be
goes
outside.
back to that whole put them in the bathtub or get them outside
Right.
type
And
of thing.
I want to touch on something that Jordi said about those that live in a city that don't get to go out in the woods. Walking around in the city, exploring the city is so much fun as well. Like
Yes.
we have done many city hikes and we've discovered so many things. I grew up in Richmond and I discovered so many things about the city itself that I didn't know. And just being along a river and even going through the city, like going up to
Up to the Capitol.
up at a Capitol and then
Yeah.
seeing the observation
walking.
tower and
It's all
Yeah.
about moving your body and it's all about getting outside. It
and
sounds like.
we discovered all these little tiny playgrounds like hidden throughout the neighborhoods. And so like it doesn't have to be in a forest. It doesn't have to be under trees. Like it just has to be outside wherever you are. Like
Yep.
just walk. Like you can have a plan as to where you're going to walk, but even like take a turn somewhere like that you're not used to. And
Yeah, and I mean, and the community part is great. Like if you can find a hiking group, that's great. But it's also great to do it on your own. Like I find it right now, we haven't been able to adventure as much as I'd like. Life's just what it is. But when we can go out there, like that is the time when I actually connect with my kids. And like I'm actually like I heal from it. And
Yeah.
we're mostly going alone just because scheduling and all the things now.
Yeah. And honestly, like for me, we don't do it often, but when we do it, it makes me realize how much I'm on my phone when I'm not doing it. But
Right?
it's
Yes.
also, it's not wrong to have to do it to get off of your phone. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? It's not wrong to say, hey, we're going for a hike today because I know that I need to be more present for you. Like that's you know what I'm saying? Like once we swallow our ego a little bit and once we say, hey, you know what, this is tough and it's tough to separate the two and it's tough to balance the two. So you know what, I'm gonna leave my phone and we're
And
gonna
that's
go.
fantastic
That's
to
okay.
model for the older kids.
Yeah.
Like I talked about mine that love screens. Like this is something that I actively have to model for them.
Yeah.
I'm addicted to my phone too. Let me set it down for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally.
see, I was just about to say they don't even have to know that. They may think that you're going out for them, for something for them
Yeah.
to do, and that doesn't. And even though it's like you feel like it's 100% for you,
Yeah.
and it could be, like they think it's for them that you're taking them out to go do something fun.
Yeah.
And I think that's
Yeah, no, I think that's great too.
it's like they don't have
Well,
to know all of our flaws right away.
right.
But it's like
Well, and another
well,
thing
let's
about
be
it is
honest,
it's,
they all know them.
they do.
Right,
They
yeah.
totally know
Well,
them.
the older they get, for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
but another thing about it is it's free mostly. Like
Yeah.
Love
there's
it.
you can pay for entrances to certain parks, but in general, like this is something you can do as a new mom that's free that will feel good.
Yeah, that's the cool part is I think that I'm going to go out on a limb, 99% of people, it will make them feel better. even if it doesn't make you feel better immediately when you're done and it feels chaotic and crazy when you're doing it, I bet when the night settles down and things get quiet,
You're glad you did it.
You're going to be glad you did it. Your body's going to feel better. Something is going to happen from it. So.
Yeah. And like for me, I like back on the phone thing. Sorry. I do have my phone with me because it's really important to me to get at least one picture to look at later.
Yeah.
Because it just like
'Cause you
brings
did it.
it back. It
Yeah.
brings back all those feelings and all the good feelings about it. I know
Yeah.
that not everybody's like that, but for me, that's an important part.
Yeah, there's always the airplane button too. You can always turn
Yeah.
the phone on the airplane mode so your boss doesn't bug you while you're walking. All right. So the moral of the story is get outside.
Get outside.
No matter
And
what
you
it
can
looks
do it.
like. Find community if you want to. If you don't want to find community, that's fine too. But even in the colder months, try and move your body and get outside. It'll make you feel better.
Get outside with the little tiny baby.
Yep.
Get outside with the toddler.
Yep.
Get outside
absolutely.
with the kids.
Cool.
Yeah.
Love it. All right. Thanks, guys.